My name is Dr. Zoll, Dr. Noah Zoll. I'm the head psychiatrist and director of the Albrightsville, Pennsylvania Psychological Institute located in downtown Albrightsville, PA. America is facing an epidemic the type of which has until now been unheard of in all of human history. It is a psychological epidemic, and it's sweeping across this once great land, destroying the very fabric of it, putting us one against another. This national psychosis presents itself in the following ways. There are those I'll refer to as the primary group, who see themselves exactly the opposite way in which they in reality exist. So, for example, a male or a female, in spite of all the traditional characteristic and reproductive biological equipment to clearly demonstrate scientifically what their gender is, they nonetheless will have the delusional psychosis of believing and indeed in insisting that they are of the exact opposite gender of which they are in reality. Another way in which the psychosis presents is a person who, in spite of being born biologically from parents of one race, insists that they are in fact interracial, being self-identified as the exact opposite race of what they are. However, the more significant psychosis is not with this primary group. In fact, those suffering from these types of psychosis could otherwise be helped through standard treatments used to help those suffering from any other delusion or neurosis, such as a person who thinks he is a dog or a chicken. If not for the fact that this other psychosis, this greater psychosis, preventing this primary group from being treated. This greater psychosis affects what we have identified as the supportive or enabling group. This psychological disorder seems to have, by and large, manifested itself among the greater population, that of embracing, supporting, applauding, and indeed encouraging the psychosis of the aforementioned primary group, thus driving them further into their psychosis. The gratification that the supportive group gains from their psychosis seems to generate from a sense of self-aggrandizement, seeing themselves as sophisticated and tolerant for their acceptance of the primary group psychosis, while their encouragement to the primary group serves to deepen the primary group psychosis further. This symbiotic relationship is having devastating results on the minds of both groups mentioned, which for many is irreversible. Some members of my own family, some of my nieces and nephews, some of my co-workers, some of my colleagues have been infected with one or both of these psychoses. Complicating matters is the fact that any rational attempt by those not suffering from either of these psychological disorders to help the primary group is misinterpreted by the supportive group as bigotry, as intolerance, as racism, and as homophobia. The American Psychological Association seems to be at a complete loss as to how to address these two codependent psychoses, as a number of its members appear to have already been affected with the supportive group psychosis, and those not affected seem paralyzed by the potential retaliation of the supportive group should they try to intervene. All hope is not completely lost, however, as there does exist a small group of dedicated psychiatrists, such as myself, who are working on ways to end this epidemic. So far, research has revealed the following. From a neuropsychological view, the liberal brain seems to be much more susceptible to these psychoses. The theory, supported by extensive clinical trials, strongly suggest that the narcissistic tendencies generally found among liberals makes their minds readily susceptible to either of these psychoses, whereas the rational conservative mind seems to have an innate ability to detect bullshit immediately and neutralize it. The current approach for treatment is first, try to arrest the spread of the epidemic by isolating those at greater risk from those who are already infected. Admittedly, this poses a tremendous challenge for those living in cities where large groups of liberals are likely to live in close proximity. The second step is treat both the primary as well as the supportive groups. It's thought that if either one of these groups is cured, the other will collapse on its own. Now, the treatment for either of these groups is the same. Present them with facts. Do so repeatedly. Do so repeatedly and often. And do so with sarcasm. Lots and lots of sarcasm. But don't be too subtle about the sarcasm, or they may not detect it. Time is of the essence. If this epidemic is not eradicated soon, Hillary might actually get elected. I gotta hide.